Good evening, good morning, esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, industry leaders, pharma and healthcare professionals, and friends. As chairman of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Indo-US Trade Relations Committee, it's my privilege and honor to welcome you all to today's webinar, which is titled India-US Pharmaceutical Partnership, Innovation, Regulation, and Market Opportunities. The pharmaceutical sector stands at a defining crossroads, shaped by rapid scientific innovation, evolving regulatory frameworks, and expanding global demand, which is for accessible and high-quality healthcare solutions. Now, in this mix, we have India and the United States, which are two of the world's most influential pharmaceutical ecosystems that share a unique and powerful partnership. One that blends India's strength in cost-effective manufacturing and generics, and that is blended with the United States leadership in research, innovation, and advanced therapeutics. Today's discussion is both timely and strategic. As we navigate evolving geopolitical realities, supply chain resilience, regulatory harmonization, and the acceleration of digital and biotech innovation have become central to this partnership. Equally important are the emerging market opportunities that can drive growth, improve patient outcomes, and foster collaborative value creation across borders. This webinar aims to bring together diverse perspectives from policymakers and regulators to industry experts and innovators to explore how we can deepen collaboration, address regulatory complexities, and unlock new avenues for growth. I encourage all the participants here to engage actively, share insights, and more so, leverage this platform to build meaningful connections. Thank you once again for joining us, and I look forward to a stimulating and productive session. With that, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce our esteemed special guest, Mr. Siddharth Katoley, Senior Advisor, International Innovation and Partnerships, New Jersey Economic Development Authority, US, and invite him to deliver his special address. As his title suggests, he's an experienced professional focused on fostering international collaborations, innovation partnerships, and strengthening cross-border engagement between India and the US in the life sciences and healthcare space. Over to you, Mr. Siddharth Katoley.
Thank you so much, Arun. Thank you for the introduction. भारत में सभी दोस्तों को मेरा प्रणाम. I just wanted to say hello to all of you. Good evening. I'd like to talk a little bit about the international innovation that is happening here in New Jersey and how we're partnering with organizations across the globe to provide a better understanding of what's happening here in the state of New Jersey. The first thing I'd like to talk about here is what our role is. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority is working very closely with the governor's office, and our key role in the state is to create good jobs for New Jersey residents and to provide pathways for a stronger and fairer economy. What that means is that we get funding from the governor's side, from the budget, as well as from our own loans that we are able to generate our own money. And so we have a budget which helps us to create programs that help businesses here succeed, as well as to grow new businesses within the state. My role in the Office of International Innovation and Partnerships is pretty broad. So we have a fairly small team, but we work with consulate generals' offices. We work with international businesses, incoming delegations, as well as this webinar that we're very happy to join with the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. We partner with federal agencies as well as state agencies. New Jersey is a very, very desirable destination in the East Coast. We have the highest concentration of scientists and engineers. We have access to more than a $3 trillion market within about 150-mile radius. Whether you go all the way up to Boston or you go down to DC, it's about a 2 or 3 hour train drive. So we have access to a fairly large market, and we're centrally located between all these states. We have just recently welcomed in a new governor, Mikey Sherrill, and a lieutenant governor, Dr. Dale Caldwell. So we are in the middle of a transition right now while we're discussing at the governor's office new priorities while continuing with the previous administration's priorities, especially in regards to innovation. But the one thing I want to say to all the attendees out here is that when it comes to life sciences, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, New Jersey is at the very center of that industry. We have a very, very large investment and stakeholders in the pharmaceutical industry right here in New Jersey, and those priorities are not changing. We're centrally located, as I said, and we have access to a global market right here from our airport in Newark. I think the most important thing that I'd like to share about this slide is that we are within the top 3 states for quality of life. We have the very highly educated workforce, and if you're thinking about bringing your business in any shape or form, whether it's small or large, to New Jersey, you can be assured that you also will get access to the best public education system here in the United States. These are some of the sectors that we are focusing on. I think what's relevant here is the life sciences, perhaps the food and beverage, but we have a lot of different foreign direct investment coming in all of these various sectors. The one thing that the Office of International Innovation has been doing now for the last 3 years is tracking the foreign direct investment that's been coming into New Jersey. And I'm happy to say that India ranks amongst the top 10 and is actually ranked the first in the investments that we've received. But it's not just about the investments, it's about the MOUs that have been signed between India and New Jersey. The previous governor, Governor Phil Murphy, was very active. Since he was a diplomat, he was very active in engaging countries, and particularly India, where we visited 3 times in the last 8 years. Just to try and understand how we could partner more with the very large and diverse place that India is. We have invested about $250 million in these 12 strategic innovation centers, and we can always talk more about it later. But I'm sure there's something of interest here, and you can always reach out to me later about those 12 strategic innovation centers. This is the list of those, and this presentation will be shared with you after this webinar is over. So with that, I'd hand it back to you. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm really looking forward to participating in this webinar.
Well, thanks so much, Mr. Siddharth Katoley, for your opening address, which has really set the stage for a great session ahead. And with that, I hand the session over to our session chair, Mr. Arvind Agrawal. He's CFO, Ajanta Pharma Limited, and he's also a very prominent member of the Indo-US Trade Relations Committee at IACC. And I request him to first introduce himself and then run the session from there on. Over to you, Mr. Arvind Agrawal.
Thank you, Arunji. And it's a pleasure to be here with all these eminent panelists. Really happy to welcome all of you again on my behalf. I am Arvind Agrawal. I am Chief Financial Officer at Ajanta Pharma. We are a mid-sized pharmaceutical company from Mumbai, and we have a major business coming from US. Almost about 27% of my total revenue comes from US, and in US is a very major contributor to our revenues. We are growing quite well. We are, have an R&D center in Mumbai, where we have about 850 people working consistently, and we have presence in other 50 countries also. So we are really trying to contribute to Indo-US relationship for last almost about 20 years now. And very happy to say that the relationship has grown over a period of time. And Mr. Katoley will be happy to know that we are in New Jersey and have a good big presence in New Jersey. So naturally happy to be there. I think other than that, I think I'm a chartered accountant and all that is not necessary here. But just to keep the context of the seminar here, because I have all the eminent panelists here. So I thought maybe I can introduce them first, and then maybe we can start. I'll give some background, and then we can start with them. So can I request Mr. John to introduce yourself first, please?
Certainly. I'm John Coelho. I'm a physician scientist based at the Economic Development Authority of New Jersey. I lead the life science practice for the last 3 years. By background, I trained both overseas and here and spent about 25 years at Pfizer and at Merck, including my own company, which we took public on the NASDAQ. And I'm really thrilled to be speaking to a really distinguished group of people about the potential of life sciences here, bilaterally that would expand innovation on both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Archana ji, can you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thanks, Arun ji, and also would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this panel. My name is Archana Jatkar. I am the Associate Secretary General at Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance represents 23 large Indian pharmaceutical companies. Collectively, these companies contribute about 80% of exports from India, about 85% of R&D expenses in India, and has a sales revenue of about 65% in Indian market. It's a premier industry association and a voice of Indian pharma industry in policy making in India. And by the nature of who we are, we also interact with all the global regulators and governments, specifically the US government and various other bodies within US. And it's a big pleasure for me to be part of this webinar. As for my background is concerned, I'm a trade lawyer and I look into global trade and regulatory affairs for the pharmaceutical industry here at IB. Thanks so much. Over.
Thank you, Archana. Can I ask Mr. Sanjay to introduce yourself, please? Sandip.
Yes. Hello and good evening to all. So thank you very much, Arvind, and I'm also thankful to organizers, all IACC committee, and all fellow panelists. And I'm Sandip. I'm Managing Director and CEO at Tiefenbacher Laboratories. I'm responsible for end-to-end operations here, right from development to manufacturing. I'm in pharma industry since last 25 years. By qualification, I am pharmacist. So thank you and hopeful for nice and interactive session ahead. Thank you very much.
Welcome to you. Thank you. Anurag ji, you are on mute.
Sorry. So good morning and good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Anurag Trivedi with over 35 years of experience in analytical and quality domain of pharma industry, specializing in impurity profiling and regulatory compliance. I am delighted to be part of this India-US pharmaceutical webinar and look forward to an engaging discussion with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anurag ji. So with this, I think we have all the panel members here. I think we will start the discussion. Before going into the details, I thought maybe, I'll just give you 2 minutes of the time in terms of this particular discussion opportunity. You see, US and India, as Arun ji said, it is a long relationship, and we are, like a very important partner in the trade for many years, especially in the pharma industry. But somehow or the other, this relationship has been restricted to more of a trade rather than a relationship a little deeper. Two areas which really are concerned is we are providing almost 40% of generic medicine in US. And that is something which is a big number. India has got largest number of US FDA approved plants outside the USA. So you can imagine the kind of relationship which we enjoy and the kind of role which we play in that particular market. However, I think there is a lot of scope for this relationship to be taken to the next level. And the time is now, because I think the Indian industry also has really evolved over a period of time. I think, as Archana just now mentioned, there is a huge amount of R&D which is being done in India, which is real R&D. It was earlier, it was only the reverse engineering, which they used to call. But now I think real R&D is being done. There are molecules which are coming out. So it's something which is really a very win-win situation if both of the countries cooperate with each other in terms of innovation, in terms of regulatory affairs. What India brings in is the scale, manufacturing excellence, and cost efficiency. That is very, very important. Whereas US can bring in capital, cutting-edge innovations, and a very mature regulatory ecosystem. So I think both these things put together can really play a very important role in terms of global healthcare scenario and the ecosystem. So we have a lot of panelists here, expert panelists here, who can contribute to this subject. Only one small thing which I would like to say, and very important, is that each company in India, or many of them, have played an important role whenever there were difficulties in US. Just to give you an example, in 23 December, the flu season was at its peak. And there was really big shortage of flu products, because previous 3 years, the flu was not there at all. And suddenly the market was really, asking for the products. They were not getting the products, and especially for the child, which is the suspension, Tamiflu equivalent suspension. Indian companies immediately came out. They took a big step. They moved the product from here by air, though they knew that the profitability, whatever small profitability they have got in US, it will get wiped out. But the commitment was that we must help the market, because that is what really we are called for, and these are the times when really we can add value, and that's what really helped. And I'm really happy to say that at that time we could save a lot of lives just because of the Indian companies supplying the goods from India. Pharma industry really stood up. Almost 4 or 5 major players came in, and they really tried to keep the supply chain on and allow the products to be available in the market. So I think that the effectiveness or the kind of resilience which is there among both the partners is really there. It is something which is definitely there in all aspect of it. But question is, can I take it to the next level? And that is what I think today we are going to discuss. That next level is something which I think is definitely possible. I'm very confident that we can do a lot of things in this. And there we have got the expert like John and other regulatory people who can contribute to that. So I'll get into the subject straight away. I can ask Archana, first of all, in terms of strategic partnerships, how can the India-US relationship evolve into a truly innovation-led relationship? Because I think this partnership of co-development or intellectual property is something which is very, very important. And that is where I think somewhere that trust factor has to come in. And I'm sure you will be able to add value there.
Yeah, thank you, Arvindji. And let me start by saying I totally concur with you that of late we are seeing a lot of trade talk between US and India. But India is not merely a trading partner of the US in pharmaceutical. It is the US's medicine partner. And Indian industry is deeply embedded in the US healthcare system through both supply and on-ground operations, with a very significant and ever-growing footprint in US. That includes, as you said, more than 700 FDA-approved manufacturing facilities, more than any country outside US. Innovative research and development activities, creating employment and long-term investment. Now, collectively, if you see Indian pharmaceutical companies, they supply nearly half of all the generic medicines used in the US and provide a substantial share of treatments across, say, 5 of the top 10 therapeutic categories. By prescription volume, costs only less, almost about 13%, serving American families, hospitals, federal healthcare programs on a daily basis. Indian manufacturers also operate, in more than 14 states in US, and there is an interdependence of that reflects on a long-standing trusted partnership, which is grounded in quality, in compliance, in regulatory and operational reliability. Now, both US and India share mutual reinforcing objectives if you clearly look. One is on strengthening health security and resiliency. Another is ensuring affordable access to everyday medicines. Third, that we are looking at is on promoting fair competition and innovation. Both countries look at that. And how can we safeguard health and medicine security for the population of each of our countries? And if you see, COVID-19 was a perfect example of how countries came together, collaborated for the benefit of their patient population in both the countries. And if one has to look at how should this relationship truly become an innovation-led strategic partnership, I think it's about both sides moving from a transactional model to a co-creation model, which means building structured platforms for co-development, aligning regulatory science, enabling predictable and balanced IP collaboration, also supporting each other in the investment in the technology transfer. And if you look at even the a trust initiative which was discussed during the Prime Minister Modi's visit last year to US, there was a trust initiative which was constituted, and this formulation that I am talking about is very consistent with the bilateral technology push under this initiative and the continuing need to manage the intellectual property constraints that more constructively between the two countries. And I think in our thought process, I think one of the most important part of bringing both these countries together is India brings the development capability, manufacturing scale, scientific talent, and global health reach. While on the other hand, the US brings frontier innovation, it brings advanced research ecosystem and capital. So the real strategic opportunity lies in combining these complementary strengths. And that's where I think both the countries have the shared interest and we should move forward in that context. Over to you, Arvind.
Thank you, Archana. That was fantastic. Coming to Mr. John, how do you see this relationship transforming into two-way innovation? Because as you rightly said, you are really working on this, and investment corridor or thought ecosystem in New Jersey, how that will help us to take this forward. Sorry, you are on mute, Mr. John.
Yeah, please call me John. One of the things we've done as a state in New Jersey is consistent with the federal directive to attempt to reshore many medicines that were historically not produced in the United States to bring them back to the United States. So for instance, amoxicillin, a core antibiotic you're all aware of, there's probably just 1 or 2 plants across the United States, one by Sandoz. So we saw during the pandemic that there were shortages, and certain, not India, of course, certain countries decided to stockpile and not ship. So I think the US cannot be in that situation again. Likewise, in New Jersey, each state managed the pandemic very differently. So we are now building resiliency plans on public health measures and critical medicine stockpile. Now, moving forward, what we're doing, I think, and I'll touch on this, that's very important, is we have shifted the focus intentionally of New Jersey towards a diversified ecosystem. And by that, I mean we were historically a big innovation small molecule state. Merck, Johnson & Johnson, Bristol Myers Squibb, and many of the European hubs were based here. That's now evolving to more of the injectable and infusion therapies with immuno-oncology, such as Keytruda, Opdivo, coming from Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb. And that's also evolving to a bigger and deeper dependence on medical technology, right? So Stryker's based here. You're having advanced diagnostics, you're having surveillance tools such as liquid biopsies. All these pieces are working together now in targeted therapy, such as in monitoring cancer. CAR-T therapy, we now make probably 4 of the 7 CAR-T therapies in the nation right here. Okay. So I put a deliberate focus on industrialization to involve India because I think this is where you can play a role. What you do very well is you've learned to bring the cost down and commercialize things very well. So that is, you take the Serum Institute of India, the world's largest vaccine maker, and I'm surprised no one brought that up. That's a critical lighthouse example of how you can make vaccines at scale on a global basis anywhere in the world, right? Yes. So that is something, you can teach or set up in the United States and ideally in New Jersey. And there are now federal incentives to do that. We never had that before, frankly. Prior administrations did not. Now we do. And there's a big reshoring effort specifically to bring these medicines back. And so there's complementary expertise to help. Back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your comment. I think that was very useful. I come to Sandip ji. From an operational standpoint, what does it take for Indian companies to move from a cost advantage to becoming a strategic partner in the US market?
Just for Indian companies, if we look into our targets, so this year maybe this number says that we'll be closing around $60 billion or 60 to 65, and this we have target of doubling this by 2030. And if we see into this 100 years of our independence, 2047 target, so we are having 400 plus US dollar in billions. So that's a huge target. So if we have to reach to that target, then definitely there is a need of change of the mindset and the shift from only just generic supplier. Just from generic supplier, you need to change to a trusted innovation partner. So if you are innovation partner, if you are looking at some differentiated molecules, then only such a huge target achievement is possible. So for all Indian companies, it is very much important to shift this focus now, and it's the early you start is the better. So the shifting the focus is the most important thing. And if we have to see into the access, how do we access into the US market? So everyone is not having offices or they're just front end in the US. So few might have only manufacturing setup, or some are having only development setup. So all these company needs to find a right partner, so that with the right partnership, we can bring success, which is mutually rewarding for the US partners and Indian companies. So that is something is most important. One more topic is like quality. So quality should be the way of working. So it should be in the culture of the organization. It should be embedded in each and every step. It should not be like a one-day job or just for the inspection only, but it has to be in just daily operations. Quality should be embedded. Quality should be built into the product. And finally, if we have everything in place, then our supply chain should be the robust. It should be flexible enough to adapt the fluctuation in the market, just agile enough to just cope with the fluctuation in the demand. And we must think about having some backup plans, maybe just how do you multi-source operations, maybe supplier point of view or just material security point of view, just multi-site operations for just having the redundancy by keeping redundancy in the mind. Or we can also work on just safety stocks and all that thing, so that we have uninterrupted supplies into the market and no risk of losing business because of the shortages. So if we consider all these things, then definitely we'll be on right track to achieve our targets.
So do you think, as Mr. John just now said, that they are really attracting these kind of companies who really want some support because they don't have either manufacturing plants or the offices in the thing? So New Jersey can provide all those kind of things, and even Siddharth is here. So he also mentioned in his things that, they are really here to promote. Would you like to, John, you would like to add something on that?
Yeah, so we are looking at, there are really two avenues, right? So there's the innovative side, where there is now a national priority voucher that was created for the FDA to select for accelerated reviews, right, on the innovative medicine side. So let's suppose there's a shortage of ketamine.
Yes.
Instead of a 9-month review process, it's 3. The FDA just introduced this, and the first 9 drugs were approved in an accelerated pathway. This is new. Second, if any of the people or the companies on this site or listening to this webcast have a site anywhere in the United States and in New Jersey, they can get a pre-check approval, kind of like the airport. You get a pre-check faster approval. So previously, one site was approved only for one drug. You can now get a pre-check approval to switch, which is really important because it gives you agility to produce different medicines. So coming back to the Serum Institute of India, if you decide to produce a new vaccine for children or a Tamiflu at scale, you have a new process that you've industrialized, you can bring that to the United States. So these are a couple of new tools you have that the FDA has introduced that we are certainly, with 200 FDA sites in this state, we're very happy to entertain.
Beautiful. Siddharth, I think just coming to you, you spoke about some innovation centers which you have established there already in New Jersey. So will that help what Sandip was talking about?
It would help startups and early stage, small businesses, because the idea with these strategic innovation centers, and John can also talk more about that. For example, in New Brunswick, we have Helix, which is Health and Life Sciences Exchange Strategic Innovation Center, which is also partnered with Nokia Bell Labs. But the idea there is to bring these early stage companies, to give them access to our stakeholders, our strategic partners, and help them grow within the state while they have the advantage of learning from our experts. But maybe, John, you have a few other comments on that.
Absolutely. Great background, Siddharth. So there are a total of 12 strategic innovation centers. 4 of them are biomedically focused, and they are diversified. So there's discovery and translational, the Helix in New Brunswick. There is MedTech down in the southern part of the state. There is cell and gene and epigenetics, also in the southern part of the state, affiliated with the world-renowned Coelho Institute, Biobank, and that also does cancer and neurodegenerative research. And then there is a digital health, MedTech hub in SciTech City, very close to Newark Airport. So by diversification, we're creating these incubator hubs, which may or may not have an accelerator, that provide the tools for startup companies or established companies, small established companies, to grow with the programming, right? So they can get fractional support, a fractional CEO or CFO, and then have access to an investment row to help them with co-investment to grow the company and then commercialize. So that's the spirit of the strategic innovation centers.
I think that is
I
really
think I
beautiful.
just want to
Sandip, I
add
think that
one
is,
thing.
yeah.
Arvind, I just want to add one thing. We also now have a new program called the New Jersey Next Manufacturing Tax Credit. So
Okay.
if, for example, this is for mid-sized businesses like yours, I mean, I know you're based in Bridgewater, but if a business is looking to start a manufacturing facility of any kind in New Jersey with a minimum capital investment of $10 million, the state will provide a tax credit of up to 25% with some other bonuses over a period of years. So you can recoup $2.5 million of your investment over a fixed period of time if it's a $10 million investment.
Yeah, that's really useful. Thank you. Coming to now, Anurag ji, from a commercial and strategic perspective, how can Indian pharma companies build sustainable long-term partnership in US beyond this generic? You are on mute, Anurag.
Sorry. To answer your question, I feel that Indian companies now really need to move beyond just volume-driven generics, which is my fellow panelists also said the same thing. The focus should be more on the complex products, biosimilars, and also be working closely with the US partners in development, which will help in a long-term relationship. And so in the short, we can say that it is more about becoming a innovation partnership rather than just a supplier type of partnership.
But what is stopping today? I think somehow it is not happening, though we talk about it. So what is that one thing which you feel is important to do this?
Yeah, so basically, if we want to build a long-term relationship, then we should be most focused on the innovation part, because the cost benefit will not be long sustainable. So definitely we should be there with a differentiated product, or like we should be provide some value to the supply chain.
Supply chain. Yeah, that's true. So innovation can be of any kind, Anurag, because Anurag, the innovation in terms of product, like complex product you are talking about, and quite a few companies I know are working in India for the complex products now, and they are trying to give those new molecules or some complex products to them. What is that which can a mid-sized company can do, because large companies are doing it already? But for mid-sized companies, what is that you would like to advise, or you would like to suggest that they should do to really get into this innovation mode?
So in my opinion, if a mid-sized company want to enter in this area, definitely first they have to focus on the quality aspect, because to get the approval of the complex product is not an easy task.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So mainly they should be focused more on the quality front.
Okay. So if the quality standards are upgraded, if something which you go up in value chain in the quality system, I think you will be able to really get into that complex product phenomenon, and then you can really have that long-term relationship.
Correct.
That's what you are saying. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Let's move to the next, this one more on the regulatory aspect of it. And I would like to come to John for this. John, how critical is regulatory predictability and alignment in attracting Indian pharmaceutical companies to establish or expand in the US? Especially, I'm talking about the alignment, because that is important, because most of the companies really are struggling on this count, I feel. So what will be your thought on this?
So as far as regulatory predictability, I think the global reshoring that we're starting to see that began last May is really very telling. There's been close to 300 billion in not just commitments, but in fact, company declarations, in acquisition of campuses and groundbreakings. Now, we have not, and to be candid, in New Jersey been the high beneficiary, but I'll give you one example. South Korea has Celltrion, a very large biosimilar maker. I know that Biocon also in India is a very large biosimilar maker, and they've expanded in New Jersey. Celltrion elected to acquire a very large campus formerly owned by Eli Lilly in New Jersey. And so now not what they're doing is they're going to be the contract manufacturer for Eli Lilly's monoclonal antibodies, and they're going to be making biosimilars at scale, at the quality level in the United States for a US population, bringing down the costs from expensive biologics. Don't forget, we have some of the most expensive, innovative medicines in the world. Now, what the FDA has done on a complementary basis is they've removed the requirement for a human bioequivalence trial for biosimilars.
Oh, okay.
This was last year, and we raised our hand through our organization, Bio. There are many people, I'm sure some of you know, who are representative on Bio, our biotech council, that said this is, and many of them are Indian, and they said this is we're comparing biosimilars to biologics. We just don't need to do a human trial to do this complex equivalency, and it was done away with. It's accelerated. So what happens then is that it gives you this regulatory predictability to allow for a biosimilar to enter the market much faster. That's an example.
Yeah, that's really good, because I think that will add a lot of value to the whole supply chain, because maximum cost goes only in that clinical trials. So I think bioequivalence, etc., if that is something which is really passed by, I think the cost will come down drastically, and the time to market also can be very fast.
Exactly. So companies like Celltrion, companies like Samsung, companies like Biocon and others that are in the biosimilar business are bringing their technology. And this is a win-win for everybody, because they've learned the technical commercialization piece and industrialization piece and accelerated it. And so it's a win for both sides, right?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that comment. Coming to Sandip ji, what are the key operational and compliance challenges Indian companies are facing when aligning the US FDA inspection? Because I think that is something which, of course, nowadays it has come down drastically. In the earlier days, I still remember about 10 years back, the observations were quite a few, but now I think there are many companies, I am proud to say, that have come out with flying colors, zero observations. So Sandip ji, your thought on that?
Yeah, certainly, because the surprise inspections are creating sometimes some challenges for Indian companies and some observations. So when this response to those observations is not holistic ones as per the FDA's expectations, and only the quick fix maybe sometimes creating challenges. So Indian companies needs to focus on more holistic approach while responding to those observations instead of the quick fixes. May engage with some experts or consultants and have this aligned properly with the FDA's expectations. Another one might be some.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So another one thing will be like this: just trust and transparency will come in this inspections. Just one observation will be like most of the time inadequate investigations is sometimes being cited, and that will come because sometimes focus remains onto this who did this, rather than it should be changed to why this happened, and then you go to the real root cause and fix it with the proper corrective and preventive actions. So some focus also needs to be shifted there, and overall the 6 systems which pharmaceutical companies are using. So all these 6 systems needs to be strengthened so that it can be like all-time readiness for the inspections. Compliance should be daily on. So this quality. So I have just learned from beginning that quality is built and not a parameter, something which you can test into the product. So that we can daily, day in, day out, build this quality products. And other solutions, maybe just getting some digital solutions so that there will be, initially it may looks like investment is huge, but when you get those solutions maybe into the laboratory, into the manufacturing, into your supply chain, so those digital solutions will give you real-time visibility of what is happening in your site. And another one thing is that you get real-time data. So this data reliability will become more important over there, and that will help in the long run. So it
Absolutely.
will also benefit in such a way that you will get right first time products, and so the investment on this digital tools will look negligible sometimes. So
Absolutely. I think very
mainly
correct.
focus is most important. Use of technology, automation. So that is most important. That will definitely help Indian companies to come out of this panic situation because of this inspection observations. Otherwise, I think awareness has gone up significantly. Lot of work has been done in last 10-15 years. There is significant improvement in the compliance level across industry, but few exceptions are there which needs to be addressed. And just I believe just in Indian government, CDSCO and FDA all are supporting pharma industry in India. Lot of work has been done jointly. I have been also part of many joint initiatives by FDA and IPA and CDSCO, so where companies are getting a lot of guidance on how to improve onto these issues, and definitely just further work will help all these are Indian companies to come out of these challenges.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think very correct. And I endorse this because our experience in Ajanta Pharma has been that only because we were very early adopter of this automation in the laboratory system. And that really paid off, and today with zero observation for both the plants, I can really say, and there are many of them in India now who can claim that they have got zero observation. I think this is a big, improvement. But as you rightly said, automation and this one is very, very important. Archana, you wanted to add something, I think.
Yeah, just a corollary to what Sandip has been saying. I
Yes.
just wanted to, apprise the audience and this panel on, IPA does a lot on the quality side because it's the heart of what the pharma industry stands for. So IPA basically has a dedicated forum from last decade or 10 years where we focus single-mindedly on quality issues, on manufacturing issues. And it is, I think, one of the very unique forums where in companies from across India come together, do the knowledge sharing, exchange the best practices, and create a capability forum for each other. And every year, what we do is we come out with guidance documents for some of the pertinent issues that come across by the industry and how to resolve it. It's kind of a guidance document which anyone can refer and resolve their or address the issues they face during the inspection or anything that is related to quality and manufacturing. And they're all on our website, so anyone who is interested can go on our website, look for these guidance document. They have been vetted by the industry experts, they have been vetted by some of the regulators. So I think and I'm also told that a lot of our industry folks actually use these documents, which is pretty satisfying from IPA's perspective to take forward the agenda of quality. So at the end of the day, patient welfare is fundamental to all the pharmaceutical industry. And I think
Absolutely.
quality is the biggest heart of everything that we do. So
Absolutely.
that's what I wanted to just make.
That was well said, I think, and I was coming to you only. So if this is what you are doing anyway, do you think any policy intervention will be required to further strengthen this? Because in any case, if there is a pressure, do you think that, if CDSO or Indian FDA also start, putting some pressure on this, though the guidance note or the guidance way is something which is going on, but is there any policy intervention which will be required?
There are 2 points that I wanted to make, Arvinji, on that. One is obviously we're talking about regulatory convergence, which can be institutionalized between the FDA and CDSCO. And I think a lot going there. There have been MOUs signed by both the parties. The risk-based inspection reliance, convergence on the technical dossier, I think is something very important. And one very feedback that we keep getting from our member companies is, post-inspection, for example, companies do not get a forum and an audience with the FDA, for example, and that you have to basically go through that whole process and those who are. So I think from that perspective, we've been, IPA has been interacting with FDA, and we've been highlighting that if there is something that can be done on that front where, and we have mechanisms like there are district offices in US, which sort of help companies to, or give at least an audience post inspection where the companies can understand what and how to resolve it. They can do it themselves, but it's just the experience which matters for these companies. So that's one point. The second point that I also wanted to make on this aspect is, this is something slightly away from regulation, but important for pharma industry perspective, is how do we have a more efficient, transparent regulatory environment in US itself. So if you look at, one of the important aspects that in the US is their structural challenges, which includes, non-transparent reimbursement practices, which are concentrated in the buy-side dynamics, which involves group purchasing organizations, which involves PBMs. And there is a prolonged regulatory uncertainty, which arises, one from the inspections delays and the other from the market dynamics point of view. And that sort of undermines the competition, the sustainable competition that the Indian companies have. So if there is something that can be done on that front, I think that is where a lot of companies will be able to come together and, for the benefit of both the countries.
Beautiful. Very nice observation. I think that is really adding value because, see, ultimately, it is the trust which you need to create. And if transparency comes, naturally, the trust will come. So I think there can be some representation which can go from the chamber to, suggest that this can be really looked at. Coming to Anurag ji, from the business standpoint, how do you regulatory complexities are impacting the go-to-market strategies? Because ultimately, any company who would like to get into the US market, they would like to look at the long-term investment. And when they are looking at the long-term investment, whether the regulatory complexities are impacting the go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, so from a business point of view, US regulatory definitely increases the cost and the timeline because it's not easy to enter and sustain there. So companies
Very
have to
high
be
cost.
Yes, so company has to be more selective and on very strong on the compliance part, as I already said.
Absolutely.
And in a way, regulation actually pushes companies to become better and more quality focused. So I can visualize in a different way that, okay, because of this stringent regulations, the Indian company has to improve more on the quality front, which give the confidence to the US partners so that the partnership can be sustained a longer time.
Okay. But like what Archana said, sometimes the transparency should be on both the parts. And this creates the complexity. Now, this complexity is something which is like, becomes a little difficult if one partner is ready to come forward, but the other partner is not ready to, come forward or become transparent about that. What is that which can be done in this regard? Is there any thought on that?
It's a good question. So from I can speak about from on behalf of the Indian companies that there must be always, as Archana said, that the trust will be the basic thing in this relationship. So most of the, if you observe the 483, there sometimes we feel that there must be a lacking of the trust in the points. So that is the area where Mr. Sandip also said that we should be more focused on that so that we can avoid such type of points and which will be definitely helpful to build up the trust from our side.
Great, thank you. Coming to a little bit, we will get into the supply chain resilience. And first, I'll come to Sandip ji. What does a resilient and reliable India-US pharmaceutical supply chain look like from a manufacturing and execution perspective? Do you have any perspective on this?
Yeah, supply chain, just in order to be reliable, it should consider both, I will say, just the capacity planning with respect to short term and long term. So if we are short term planning, then we should focus on next 3 years, 3 months, 6 months, maybe 1 year. But strategic plan should be in place. What will happen after 1 year, 2 year, just 5 years? So that plan will definitely help Indian companies to just manage their capacities or just align their capacities as per the demand. And if this capacity working is not done, then definitely it is difficult to meet the increasing demand. And if we are really working on the growth plan, then this capacity planning is the most important factor to be considered. And another one is like redundancy. If you have only one machine, have one more at least. So if the one machine breaks down, you should have alternate to supply. And similarly, this redundancy is not only machine level but to the plant level, because sometimes things may not go in our favor during inspections and you may not be able to supply from this plant, but you should have alternate plant. So multi-plant approach is something which is very much important. And just similar applies to our partners or suppliers for the packaging materials, for the raw materials, for the APIs. So there also we need to have options. And if we have options everywhere, then we have multi-sourcing, then definitely we will have reliable supply chain. And the agility into this supply chain is most important, because sometimes things are not happening as you are planning. There are unpredictable things happening into the market. So some competitor may come at cost effective price, and then you see some changes. Sometimes the demand goes up. So this fluctuation needs to be managed. Your supply chain should be able to accommodate those fluctuations. So that's the view on this more reliable and resilient supply chain I'm having.
You are very right. The capacity planning is something which, unfortunately, I think in India, most of the 483s, if you see, or the constraints which we have seen in the past also, that becomes a big constraint. Because one failure in the entire your production line, even if one machine doesn't work, you are in big this one, and every time everybody is planning on dot, so they want to be on the inventory side, or whether it is the movement side, everything is so tightly planned that any small variation or any small unforeseen circumstances can really disrupt that. I agree with you. I fully agree with you. And that is what is something which is, has happened in the past. But I think industry has learned over a period of time, and today we are in a much better condition. Coming to, I think, Archana, what do you think in terms of the supply chain, especially on API and critical drugs? What is your thought on the policy framework? You are on mute.
Sorry. So for us, we look at the whole supply chain, resilient supply chain, diversified supply chain from the angle of medicine security equals to national security.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
you can change you can fit in any country. So far as US India is concerned, I think de-risking the affordable medicine supply chain is crucial for both the countries, particularly in addressing the risk which are associated with dependence on the single source suppliers like China, whether it is for the APIs or for the KSMs.
Absolutely.
And in that context, we have seen India's initiative since 2020, where government came out with the schemes to boost API and KSM production, which after 4 or 5 years are now yielding results by augmenting the capacity to produce, some of the essential medicines, whether it is penicillin G or clindamycin domestically. Now, as two nations are engaging in critical discussions, whether it is on trade, on defense, or security, we think that a US-India affordable medicine partnership would be a very pivotal component of this. And health, whether it highlights the military readiness we've seen in current times, it's very important. Whether it is required for business continuity, we have seen several geopolitical situations where it has been very difficult to navigate. And, idea is to reinforce the partnership's role in sustaining both countries' core infrastructure. And such a partnership would therefore directly address national security concerns of both countries, which automatically, as I said, takes care of the health security. Now, if you look at, the role of pharmaceutical sector and the Mission 500, or that which was talked last year by both the governments on how do you double the bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030? One of the initiatives that the joint statement talked about was on transforming the relationship utilizing strategic technology, the Trust Initiative, which outlined both countries, and there's a specific focus on building trusted and resilient supply chains, which includes pharmaceutical and the others being, semiconductors and critical minerals and other areas. I think this type of initiative will then enhance manufacturing capabilities and capacities in both countries, particularly, on the medicine production and de-risking the critical supply chain. So I think that is where the whole idea of coming together roots so far as the resilience is concerned. Now, when you're driving this initiative forward, obviously, it will not only secure India's position in the US pharmaceutical supply chain, but we're also looking at some of the other frameworks like Quad nations, which are working very closely on the supply chain resiliency and diversification, where, of course, a lot of countries come in. And that is where, IPA is also very active on whether it is in the India-US forum or on the Quad side. Both are very important. And I think current situations that we see in West Asia, or we had seen in the COVID pandemic, or any other geopolitical situations, I think it's extremely important that we treat health security as national security, and that's where the shared interest of both countries lie.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very aptly put. So I'll come to John then. John, I think you already mentioned about this, but I think New Jersey is positioning itself. So do you think India will fit into this ecosystem?
Well, we've had, it's, to me, if you ask me, of course, it's a natural fit. Many of the leaders in the both innovative and the generic side are Indian leaders based in New Jersey. We have a very large Indian diaspora and a highly diverse representative population. So the environment and ecosystem is very conducive to early stage development and commercialization. So there's clearly a fit. I think we've got to see a situation where we have all boats rising, right? And not a production on one side and an innovation on one side. I think someone mentioned co-creation. If you take technical licensing, for instance, or commercialization, specifically in advanced manufacturing, there are now new, as of 25 or 2024, new criteria in advanced manufacturing. We have only 2 manufacturers for advanced manufacturing, which are, just for everyone's benefit, more rapid uptake, greater yields, lower waste, just 2 to 3 manufacturers in the state. There's certainly opportunity to bring more in. So here's a great opening. right,
Okay.
for Indian-based companies to bring advanced manufacturing adoption into New Jersey. And we have 200 sites, certified FDA sites. Take advantage of the pre-check, FDA pre-check. Work with the federal administration. There are many things that are happening that I think are conducive. Take advantage of our next manufacturing tax credit, which gives you, 20, I think the criteria are only 20 people that you have to hire and a 10 million investment, but you can take a pretty sizable tax credit as a result in this. So these are important tools you can use from the Economic Development Authority to help you. Plus, there's our trade ecosystem that's led by BioNJ. I would be remiss if I didn't mention them. That gives you connectivity and network.
Okay. That's really great. Coming to Anurag ji now, so ultimately based on this global outsourcing and partnerships, what do you think about this to make our supply chain resilient?
So I think the key learning from the recent years is over dependency is very risky.
Yeah.
So company need to be diversify their sourcing and also build more strategic partnership, which will definitely help for to avoid such type of risky situation in future and continuity of the supply of the medicine. So I can say that this resilience really comes from the strategic diversification and collaboration only.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically you feel that, if diversification is done, then it is the key to success. Otherwise, it is very difficult.
Yes.
And especially in the
absolutely.
markets like US, where, where non-compliance or non-supply is something which is very heavily penalized. So I think that is very, very crucial for any company to
crucial.
ensure that you have multi-sourcing, like what, Sandip said. I think the same point which we are trying to also emphasize.
So just to give an example, if you file any product with a one KSM with a one source, and if
Yeah.
anything happened to that particular source, or all the filings will be gone. And so definitely,
Absolutely.
definitely we have to take care of that.
That's what Sandip has highlighted. Yes, you are absolutely right. And this is the experience across, where I think in the past, this has happened many times for Indian companies, and that is where they suffered. So now they have learned the lesson, and hopefully now the multi sourcing, etc., are becoming little rule of the day. Great, thank you for your comment. I think now we'll move a little bit from supply chain to the R&D, the innovation part, which was the major focus of this particular interaction which we are having today. So first, I would like to ask Archana, in terms of IP framework, what is your thought on the how we can accelerate this Indo-US innovation thing, in terms of the policy initiatives or from the point of view of the building that whole ecosystem?
Yeah, thanks, Arvind. A very, very good question. Very relevant when it comes to, US-India relationship. I think from the Indian pharma industry's perspective, accelerating India-US innovation or R&D, it requires an IP framework that enables co-creation rather than conflict.
Right.
Now, the priority should be, from our point of view, is a balanced architecture that supports joint ownership models, tech transfer, predictable patent examination. The quality of patent has to be good, while preserving, the public health safeguards and consistent policy space that the TRIPS agreement has done.
Okay.
So that's something, and the objective should be to make India and the US partners in co-development and commercialization, not counterparties in recurring IP disputes, and you can see a lot of these disputes which can be resolved but are not resolved. Now, if you look at the policy framework, a dedicated US India pharma innovation and IP dialogue, I think that'll be a great idea. The reason this is needed is that, IP issues still surface mainly through trade friction channels, whether it is the USTR Special 301 process, which is not the best forum for building trust around joint innovation.
Absolutely.
India has engaged in continuous cooperation with US government across wide range of fronts, which includes US-India Trade Policy Forum, technical cooperation with US Patent and Trademark Office, collaboration with US enforcement or regulatory agencies. I think this level of engagement would reflect not only responsiveness to each other's concerns, but also shared commitment to convergence, to trust, to problem solving. And at the same time, one will also have to again come to the point of, how any effective intellectual property protection and market access, it must be assessed in the context of downstream market conditions. And as I said previously, in US, there is structural challenges, which includes non-transparent reimbursement practices. You have concentrated buy-side dynamics with only 3 GPOs, with PBMs very, very concentrated. And there is an untoward market dynamics that contributes to instability, in discouraging manufacturing investment. So if there is a transparency on both sides, that would work fantastic. Now, addressing these US challenges are essential to restoring the balance between innovation and access that the Hatch-Waxman framework was designed to achieve in the US. And therefore, ensuring that trusted partners such as India, we can continue to support US health, economic, and security. So there has to be this kind of a framework that we should look at, which actually is a very shared commitment for both the countries. Unfortunately, that is not happening at this point in time. And we're hopeful it will happen someday.
Right, definitely. So I think, John, what is your thought on this? You're on mute, John.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect. Good. Yeah. I think I was. So the way US operates from a payer standpoint is complex. We are not one payer system like many countries in Europe or in India, where there is government pricing set for medicines, both at the innovative or generic. We have at the federal level Medicare for people over 65 and Medicaid for those in the low income category, and the Veterans Administration hospital that provides its own healthcare system through its hospital system, which is the largest, and a set price for veterans. Separately, each state has its own insurance companies that set prices. And many states have government insurance boards that attempt to regulate those. And be very candid, in our state, the insurance companies raise the public employees' premiums by 18, 19%, when inflation's only 2 or 3%, so it's a very difficult pill to swallow, if you don't mind the pun. So this poses challenges. The AstraZeneca CEO said it best. He said, we can reduce costs by 40, 50% if you just bypass insurance, because insurers 20 some years ago, after the Affordable Care Act, created these PBMs, so pharmacy benefit managers, that are the brokers that work with pharmaceutical companies and biotechs to set the price. If you don't come to an agreement on the rebates and the price, you don't get access. So insurers control PBMs and also control pharmacies. And there are like 4 or 5 of them that have this monopoly. So this is the challenge we have. We see now tremendous amount of pressure and legislation bilaterally on these insurers. You're seeing that on companies like United Healthcare and others. I wish we start to see that in our state. And this will help bring down prices. But, on the generic side, there's tremendous opportunity. That's the innovative. On the generic side, there's tremendous opportunity because our prices are very low. And I believe that there may be opportunity to raise prices given the discussion we've had on quality, right? And as quality improves, as you're able to scale and bring more advanced manufacturing methods for injectables, for pills to produce at scale, I think there's a willingness to pay more for a quality medicine, so this, because the vast majority of medicines are generic, 80, 85, 90% consumed in the United States. So that's the framework I would bring to you, and why I say there's tremendous opportunity to bring innovation to solve for providing for 90% of the medicines in the generic space.
Okay, beautiful. I think so. Ultimately, one thing is there, that there is a willingness, according to you, to pay a little more also, provided the quality is something which is assured. That's what you are trying to say. Okay, great.
Correct.
I think somehow the time is really moving very fast. We are still not able to complete many things which we wanted to cover, but I think quickly I will come to Sandip ji. In terms of execution, what do you think innovation can really, do in terms of execution? How you would like to execute that? And I think after that we would like to close and put the question answer session for 10 minutes. Yes, Sandip ji.
So execution with respect to this process innovation and formulation capacity, so it is not only limited to R&D, so it goes much beyond that and into execution, into manufacturing.
Absolutely.
And where we can say it's not an innovation, but nowadays we are calling it as excellence. So excellence with respect to automation, excellence with respect to use of digital tools or various lean tools. So in every form, to right from your receipt of material, or maybe while in the this procurement, everywhere you need to get away from manual interventions and implement digital just tools, so that you will get efficiency. So efficiency is the one. So in future, which will measure your capability. So not the volume or not the scale you operate, but at what efficiency you are operating, that will be a most important parameter of future. So that innovation will help you to be efficient in all the areas of operations. And one is into the R&D, that the product capability. So just moving our just focus, or the changing our just mindset, or everything just from the volume-based generic business to just differentiated innovative molecules, maybe a complex generics. So if one is having just injectable formulations into the vials, if you come up with some patient-friendly just pen into the market, then definitely you are having added advantage. Just have patient centricity while developing your products in mind, and that will definitely help just all patients across US, India, and all over world. So that's something we focus.
Beautiful. That's really great, and good point you made, because I think the smaller innovations also can really add a lot of value. And that's what John also said, okay, if you have that quality, if you have got the differentiation, I think the customer is ready to pay you. So that is something which is execution-wise that can really add value. Quickly, I think I will not take too much of time, but quickly, I think I am coming to Anurag ji. This transition from volume-driven model to innovation-led portfolio, what do you think is something which we can do in this regard?
Yeah. So to move towards innovation, companies, because I'm a part of research and development, so I strongly believe that to move towards innovation, the companies need to invest more in the R&D and focus on the niche product with a with a low volume but high pricing, and simultaneously maintaining the quality. So this combination will definitely help us. And another thing is working with a US market can really accelerate this. So basically, a shift from scale to a science-driven growth will be beneficial for us.
But do you think that in that case, the kind of programs which are there in the New Jersey area or the governments, whatever they are providing, will that help? Because they are talking about startups, etc. Now, if you have the idea in terms of a complex product and some innovation which Sandip ji spoke about, whether this can really combine together, is it possible?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a very good actually initiative, and definitely this will be beneficial for both the countries.
Both the countries.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
that's really great. I think we are, approaching the closing time, and the organizer told me very clearly that hard time is 8:30. So I think what we will do is, it's now 10 minutes we have. Maybe if there are any questions which are there from the participants, we can take that and one or two questions, and then maybe I can request Nehal to conclude the discussion. Maybe we have lot to ask this expert panel, because all of them are stalwart in their own areas and everybody can contribute quite a lot to this discussion, but I think time is a constraint, so we need to move on. So maybe I think Robin, if there are questions which are there, if you can ask the participants to ask the questions. If they have got the question, they can put it in the chat and then we can take it up with the panel.
Robin, I think Robin isn't there. I think there are no questions as of such, but I think what I would like to know from all the speakers is, what do you think that considering this current scenario, what is the future outlook of India-US pharmaceutical forum? That's what I would like to ask. What is it? So I know it's open to all four of you. It's a very wide question, but all of you can just maybe just.
Yeah, maybe then we can start with John because he will be the right person now, currently sitting in US and seeing the situation there.
So I'm seeing an enormous intersect of improving efficiency in health and technology. So, for instance, a stepwise approach, from if you map out the entire patient journey from the time a patient goes to the doctor, sees the doctor, gets referred to a specialist, goes to a hospital, etc., the surgery, discharge, follow-up instructions. There are many, many points of friction which health tech can solve and remove those points, provided the technology that you're bringing, AI or other, is compliant and is interoperable with the system like EPICS, EPIC, which some of you may or may not be aware of. That's the patient portal system. So let's not only limit it to pharmaceutical partnerships, we've got to also look at how you make medicines and devices more accessible and improve the patient experience and outcomes. So focus on the patient outcomes. So that's one area I think that's enormous. Advanced manufacturing, enormous potential, I think, given there's a need to build a strategic reserve. And, I think there's no place better than New Jersey for all the sites that we have defined that can nurture these medicines. Improving supply and availability on a sustained basis so we don't have shortages is really important, right? So if there are global political tensions, challenges 8, 9, 10 days due to wars, as we've had before for the last 5 years in the Middle East, we should look at opportunities to build strategic reserves, which is what the federal government is doing. And, building facilities in New Jersey can help that. And finally, in patient care, learning which drugs will work in the genomic space. This is, to me, I think, a very exciting area we're learning from precision and is pharmacy, is which medicines will work better in which patients. Using genomics to really study that a priority is going to really help us with right medicine, right patient versus a broad population health approach.
Absolutely. Sandip ji, would you like to add something on this?
So as far as future outlook is concerned, I am very much looking forward to smart manufacturing plants and maybe just process automation everywhere and use of digital tools. So that's the future outlook I am expecting.
Okay. Great. So I think it's 5 minutes now for the closing. So maybe can I request Nehal to take over, please?
Yeah, before I take over, there's one question from Shweta. She wants to know if New Jersey Innovation Center, does it support tech startups in life science domain, as in automation system providers? So this is for you, Siddhartha.
Siddharth?
I think if it's life sciences, I'd probably ask John to answer that question.
Okay.
He's more
Yeah.
more connected with that. John,
Yes,
is that okay?
Absolutely, and so it would support it, and I think it might be fine, Siddhartha, to send the link to the Helix to the panelists so people can converse directly with the Helix for interest.
Okay, great.
Absolutely, I can do that right now.
Okay.
I just wanted to add to the benefit of the audience over here. We spoke about a lot of things, quality and many other issues, but one of the things that we haven't touched upon is business development and marketing, the talent that the pharmaceutical companies in India have. And I know there's trade organizations here. Archana is one of the representatives, so is the IACC. I urge you to connect with your trade commissioners at the consular level, whether it's Mumbai or Delhi. Keep passing on the message through them to us, because I know that there is an API initiative and the strategic reserve, which John is talking about, with the many locations that are set up here in New Jersey. So if you look at that, we need not just savvy business marketers, but we also need them to be patient, who can work through these channels and pass the messages on to us, not just directly, but even through the consular offices, so that we can continue to work with them in a way that will allow the pharmaceutical companies in India to take advantage of this supply chain that continues to be developed here in the US.
Beautiful. That's a very good point. Thank you for that addition. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Nehal.
Yeah, so with that, we are coming to the end of the session. And so I would like to do the last work, but I would like to present a word of thanks. So it's my privilege to propose the word of thanks at the close of this insightful session on the India-US Pharmaceutical Partnership. Today's discussion has clearly highlighted how this relationship is evolving from a traditional buyer-supplier dynamic to a strategic collaboration driven by innovation, resilience, and shared global responsibility. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our distinguished panelist, Ms. Archana Jatkar, for her valuable perspectives on policy, intellectual property, and regulatory alignment. Archana ji, your point on US-India Affordable Medicine Partnership is well taken, and maybe we can do a paper presentation through US Consulate ahead. Also, special thanks to Mr. John and Mrs. Siddhartha for bringing in the ecosystem and international collaboration perspective, particularly from New Jersey. I would like to add that IACC is taking a delegation to New York and New Jersey in May 2026.
Yes.
And many of our members will benefit from today's session and insights shared by you both. Mr. Sandip Tarate, sir, thank you for sharing practical insights on manufacturing excellence and global compliance. Your point that we need to shift from being just generic supplier is really that all Indian pharmaceutical companies need to work on. Mr. Anurag, sir, thank you very much for your sharp views on business strategy and market dynamics. Your remark of shift towards science-driven programs is really the need of an hour for Indian companies. Each of you has contributed meaningful, offering well-rounded overview across policy, ecosystem, execution, and strategy. I would also like to thank our moderator, Arun ji, for taking out your time and for steering this conversation so effectively, ensuring that key themes from regulatory harmonization and supply chain resilience to innovation and accessibility were explored with depth and clarity. As we move forward on this thing is very clear. One thing is very clear, that India-US corridor holds immense potential, not just for economic growth, but for shaping the future of global healthcare through collaboration, innovation, and access. So on that note, I extend my heartfelt thanks To everyone, thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All panel members. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.